Ah, good night. Happy you could join me, my friends. I am your storyteller, and tonight I would like to share a particular story with you. I've been rummaging through some old books, some new books, and I found a story rather interesting. Yes, I thought I'd share it with you. This story is written by one Charles M. Von Cross, and the name of the story is Loved by the Undead. So I've read a few pages in, and it seems pretty interesting. Now, the general gist of the story is about love, the power of love, and the extent that some people are prepared to go to hold on to that love. Now, God is the author of love, yes, but there's a God and there is an evil one. Satan, the devil, Beelzebub. We all have different names that we call him, but you know who I'm referring to. Sometimes we do things for the sake of love and end up in serious troubles. This is one such story where a young man, Sean, he decided that his girlfriend, who got herself into a bit of a spot, and he would do whatever it took to get her back. Anyway, without further ado, let's go to the story now, shall we? I wanna give you the introduction so that you could have an idea of what this story is about. Sean Coswell Jr., a final year university student, he had to fill out the paperwork for 2 dead bodies, which came in late at his father's funeral parlor. The young man, he received the shock of his life when he discovers that one of the dead bodies is that of his beautiful, beloved girlfriend, Emma Stone. Now, 5 months earlier, young man Sean, he had proposed to her, but she had tearfully told him that though she wanted to, though she loved him, she couldn't marry him because she was cursed. She then left him there with a diamond ring in his hands, and he never saw her again. That is, not until she turned up on a stainless steel table at the young man's father's morgue. But she was then a lifeless corpse. And so, Sean wants her back. He wants back his precious Emma. And the fellow, he is now searching for a door that will lead him into the other world, Emma's world. For Emma's soul is now bound to another place. It is a dimension occupied by the spirits of the dead. Now, the story starts with Sean at his father's business place, and he's sad because it's been several months after his girlfriend Emma has disappeared. He has absolutely no idea where she is. He has hunted, searched high and low, but he cannot find her. And so in the evenings after school, he goes to his father's office just to assist with the paperwork. This is one of those such evenings. Sean holds a clipboard in his hand nervously as he checks the information on the second to last job, which came in at 5:30 p.m. This is not a regular part of his job though, nah. But Paul, who has specific responsibility for processing each job, and by job, my friends, I mean each dead body, each corpse. So Paul, he had finished all the paperwork on his desk and he left at 5 p.m., which is his normal time. But Sean's father had called him just a few minutes earlier to advise that these late jobs were a priority. These two jobs that just came in. And so he wanted for Sean to give them a special attention. Okay. So Sean, he gets up and he goes to the morgue to attend to these two new corpses, to do the paperwork, you see. Now, the room, it is cold, very cold, and mist forms in the air before his face every time he exhales. To Sean, the cold room appears dark, yes, because as I said earlier, he's still very sad. He's mourning, he's confused because he cannot find his Emma. Now, he signs the bottom of the job sheet for the first body, which he just completed, and unwillingly, he steps towards the next job. And as I said, that is the next corpse. Of course, he's there and he's thinking to himself, he's pondering. Oh, how I hate this damn place. This wretched family business. But though he thinks these things to himself, he will do it anyway. For although he hates this business which his father has built, expanding it to 3 locations in just 8 years, the fella, he loves his father dearly. And yes, he also appreciates the money which the funeral parlor brings in. So he has determined to do his best, not to be ungrateful. So he flips over the completed sheet and prepares to start filling in the details of the last job, this priority assignment. Sean looks on the clock on the wall. It is 6:15 p.m. He mutters it to himself, and then he writes it in on the upper left hand of the job sheet. Okay, let's see if I can wrap this up quickly and get out of this awful place, he says, and then he begins to fill out the job description details. Now, Sean doesn't really understand why all the details he has to be filling out is so necessary for these kind of jobs. But his dad has told him that it helps the company to avoid possible mix-ups, in the event that there is a shifting around of the actual bodies for whatever reason, and one corpse may get confused, mixed up with another, because they happen to look alike. It had happened before, about 18 months ago. 2 bodies had gotten mixed up one for the other because they looked so much alike, as if they had been clones. Fortunately, Sean's father had discovered that just an hour before one of the completed jobs was due to be sent out to a client at the church. It would have been a disaster. It would have been absolute mayhem if that body, the wrong body, had gone through the door and ended up in the hands of the wrong family. Anyway, so now Sean understands why all this extra detail on the job sheet is required. So he begins to fill in the name of the next job from off of the yellow card which is on the table beside the body itself. But as his eyes begin to breathe, he stops, and the young man stares at the name there. His stomach suddenly turns, and his mouth opens, and his eyes widen in disbelief as he stares at the name on the card. No, this can't be. What the hell? No, this. Yes, he is feeling really terrible. Why? Because the name he is seeing is the name that he knows. Oh God! What the hell could have happened? He can't believe what his eyes now read on the card, because he knows the name of this corpse, and he's very familiar with this job which has been sent in to his father's morgue. But the body, right now, it is covered over. Yes, and in a moment he will find out, though, yes, he will shortly confirm if this is just some awful mistake, someone's wrong spelling, hopefully. So Sean moves to the side of the table, and he stretches forth his trembling hand. His heart begins to race as he takes hold of the end of the sheet. The boy doesn't want to, no, but he has to. He has to look. Sean has to confirm this one way or another. If what he now fears in his heart is indeed true. His left hand clutches the clipboard to his chest as his right hand slowly begins to pull back the sheet. He can hear his own heartbeat as his pulse pounds in his ears. Sean. Just a peek, he says to himself, because he only needs a quick look. That's all he will need, and then he will know. Sean struggles to calm his fears, but his fear has flooded through his veins, and now as he uncovers the hidden, he looks down at the face of the person on the cold table. Sean can't believe his eyes. He can't believe what he now sees before him. He lets go of the sheet. His great fear is now realized. It's true. It is true. It is her. Sean shakes his head slowly as the dismal reality seeps into him. Disbelief arrests his soul. His mind is in shock, and his eyes, they become glazed. The bewildered boy slowly moves his hand to touch her. His lips, they tremble as he begins to speak. Oh, no, Emma, my beautiful Emma Stone. Who did this to you, love? Who killed you? What happened to you? And a tear, it rolls down his cheek as he gently places his finger upon her cold lips. The boy's chest is aching and a heaviness presses against his lungs. Sean pulls back the cover over her face. Her beautiful but now dead face. He has seen enough. He has seen too much. He feels his nose begin to run, and more warm tears now stream down his face. I'm so sorry, my love. Dear Emma, I'm sorry. Your Sean is broken. My heart is pierced through. I can't believe you're gone. Can't believe. The boy turns away. Sean, he gets to the door and opens it. And as he places his hand upon the switch to turn off the lights, he turns around one last time. Really, really sorry, Emma. If I could, I would do anything to bring you back. He's shaking his head in utter disbelief as he looks across at the table where Emma's body is covered. And he says his last words. Goodbye, Emma. Sean then turns off the lights and closes the door. That is sad. Now, folks, this particular story is essentially a work of fiction. However, I've been informed that much of the content here has been written based on people's real life experiences. So, Sean is in a really horrible place because as we know he has been looking and wondering where his Emma had been, and now to find her like this. Can you even imagine his pain, his anguish? Let us continue the story. Sean Coswell has finished filling in the job description sheet at his desk. He had not needed to refer to the yellow body tag for help in filling in the information, because he knows all there is to know about this one. Well, almost all there is to know. But right now, young Coswell, he's in a dark daze. He had not even been conscious of when he had completed the process. He had simply gone through the motions, like an automated robot. But this robot also has a heart, a soul, and right now circuits have begun to blow. Now, about a year into her course, Emma had switched from a business administration degree program she was doing to the business management and marketing course, which Sean was doing at the University College of the Caribbean. Yeah. Now, young Coswell's strength was in marketing, and it had put him at the top of his class. Yes, he was the bright fella when it came to marketing. Now, Emma, she was a bright enough girl. Yes, she was an okay student. Yet, she had needed a little bit of help with some aspects of the marketing program. And as you can imagine, Sean was more than happy to help. They had had a really great friendship, and Sean knew that she loved him, yes, and he loved her dearly, he did, for her sweet, caring, ever thoughtful personality. Yeah, it had made it all the more easy for him to love her. Now, Emma had a beautiful face, yes she did, and a thoughtful, kind heart to match. It had been a truly beautiful relationship. Yet, my friends, there was something there. Something that was hidden. Something that had kept her from him completely. And he had felt it all along. Yes, even from the early days when they had just started talking. She had told him that things were okay. They had never become sexually involved though, yet Sean could not have loved her anymore. He had often asked her to just share with him, level with him, tell him what it was, for he had seen it in her eyes. He had seen that something was wrong, and he had tried, he had thought about it, he had deeply pondered it, but still he came up empty. Yes. He just hadn't been able to put his finger on it. He couldn't figure out what it was. What it was that often caused that distant look in her beautiful brown eyes. But his love for her, it was greater than his need to know what her hidden secret was. And so, 5 months ago, the young lad, he had bought her an engagement ring. Yes, he did. Gold and diamonds, as beautiful as her eyes. That's what he had thought then, when he had bought it. And so, 5 months ago, he had gone to her and offered her that ring. And he said to her, Emma, I love you with all my heart. And no matter what problem or issues you may have from your past or any challenges you may now have in your life, I want to share all of that with you, whether it be good or bad. Will you be my wife? Now, my friends, he knew that she had loved him. Of that, Sean was absolutely certain. Yet, as she had looked on the glistening ring that night, tears welled up in her eyes. And it wasn't tears of joy, no. For he had looked deep into her eyes then, and he had seen her pain. Yes, he had felt it, and he knew that it was that same thing, whatever it was, which had caused her to keep herself from him. For as the tears had begun to flow down her tender cheeks, she had placed her hand on his face and gently had spoken the very last words that he would have heard from her lips ever again. And this is what she said. Oh, Sean, you have made me so happy. You filled my life with so much joy. Words can never fully express. And it is you who I love more than any other on this earth. So please, don't ever doubt that. But I am not good for you, my love. I am a corrupted soul. Yes, I know I'm beautiful on the outside, but my darling, if I could, if ever I knew a way how, then in a heartbeat, Sean, I would cleanse my soul for you. But alas, I can't. There's no way to fix me, Sean. I'm damned, I'm cursed. And because I do love you, Sean, I will let you go. But don't be sad though. I want you to remember me now, just as I am. Sean, I will love you forever. Even till I'm dead and my flesh is rotten, I will still love you. Goodbye, my love. That was it. That's what she said to him 5 months ago. And then she was gone. Yes, my friends, he couldn't find her anywhere. He called, he couldn't get her on the phone. He searched for her at home. He couldn't find her. She didn't even return to school. Like the wind, she had come, and then she had gone. It had been like a bad dream from which he had hoped he would awaken. But that was 5 months ago. And he never awoke, it seems. And now, this, can you imagine? With her dead body lying there back in the morgue, it has all gotten wickedly worse. His bitter, sweet dream has just become a horrific nightmare. I don't know about you, but I think this is just quite a bit, especially for a young lad to take in. But we don't know just how strong we are until we face the fire. And so Sean is facing his fire. So he went home. Now, Sean had finished having dinner and had retired early to his room. His father, Coswell Sr., had noticed earlier at the dinner table that Sean had not been his usual self, and he had questioned him. He wanted to find out what was happening with his son. "Sean, is everything okay, son? You seem a bit quiet this evening." But Sean had not wanted to bother his father with this whole shocking business. It was obvious that his dad had known nothing about Sean being acquainted with this Emma Stone, much less to be romantically involved with the now deceased girl back at his morgue. And if he knew, if Sean should tell him now, Mr. Coswell was sure to tell his son to take a break, take some time off from the office. But as hard as that was, Sean didn't want his dad to be babying him, making special concessions for his emotional state. He didn't want that. So Sean Coswell just decided he would not appear weak, although he knew his father would have understood. Yes, he would. He wanted to deal with this on his own. At least he wants to try. And so he just gave his father something believable. He said to him, "Oh, no, I'm fine, Dad. Just a project at school which has me pondering deeply, rocking my brain. It's my final semester, so it's a bit hectic. But I'll be over it in a few weeks. I'll be good. Thanks, Dad." And with that, he had excused himself from the dining table, and he went upstairs to his room. But you and I know, Sean was not okay at all. Hell no. His mind was a mess, and he himself was a bundle of nerves. Young Coswell, he's finished drying his face, and now he looks up at his reflection in the bathroom mirror above the face space. "Oh God, tell me this isn't true. Tell me it's just a real sick dream, please." He hangs the towel on the rack and leaves the bathroom. Sean takes his shirt and neatly folds it over the back of his easy chair. Then he walks slowly across to his dresser, as if he's like contemplating each step that he makes. He reaches down and he takes up a small framed photo. He holds it up. He smiles. But the pain, yes, there is a deep, retching pain in his chest, and it just does not ease. Sean goes to his bed and he lies down. He holds the picture up above his face as he lies on his back. Now, it was a photo of his Emma, which he had taken about a month after they had started dating. Yes, and in it her smile was beautiful, and her eyes, he had always just so loved those dark, brown, beautiful eyes. They got him every time. For Emma was not just beautiful. No, Emma was a captivating girl. Yes, and indeed she had captured Sean's heart. And even after she had disappeared that night, the night he had held up that gold and diamond ring and asked her to be his wife, she had not let him go. No. So it seems somehow he could still feel her near him. It was as if her spirit had still been holding on to him all these months. Yes, still connected to his soul. And though he couldn't even find her, though he felt that she had at least owed him an explanation, yet still he had refused to let her go. The memory of her now fills his heart, took the overflowing off its walls. Sean looks at her photo, and he reaches up and puts a finger on her face. The boy forces a smile through his pain, and his eyes become filled with a gleamy pool as his sadness. It now opens a fountain in his burning eyes, and his tears for her death now stream down the sides of his face. Emma Stone, you should have never left. You should have let me in. You should have let me share your pain, Emma. I would have been happy. I would have been honored to have shared that with you, no matter what it was. You should have let me in, Emma. You should have let me help you. Sean looks at her eyes in the picture, as if she's able to look back at him. Emma? Can you hear me, Emma? He puts the photo up on his chest, and he begins to stare up at the ceiling. Oh God, I know you're there, and I know you understand what's happening. I'm gonna sleep now. I'm just gonna close my eyes. Wake me up in a different place, will you? Please, wake me up in a place where this nightmare does not exist. Poor Sean. You know, my friends, I've had my fair share of sadness. Have you ever been to a place where you feel surreal, as if what is happening just can't be happening, can't be real, and you'd love very much for it to just vanish away? You go to sleep and you pray that when you wake, you will wake up in another place, one without the awfulness that had greeted you the day before. But it doesn't go. Well, this is where young Sean Coswell now finds himself. But let us read on. So his bedside alarm clock goes off. Beep, beep, beep. It is 5:55 a.m. And Sean, he rolls over and switches it off. He rubs his eyes and he sits up in the bed. Oh, another day. God, I had a really a horrible day yesterday, and all I need now is for you to tell me that I'm actually just waking up from it all. Sean swings his feet over the bed and he pushes himself up. As he stands to his feet, he heads to the bathroom and he climbs into the shower. His eyes are still half closed as he feels around for the knob to turn on the shower. Yes, cold water. Just what I need to wake me up, put me in my right mind. He stands under the shower as the water pours down upon his head. It's indeed cold and it snaps him out of his semi-slumber. Sean takes down his rag and he squirts some blue gel upon it. He inhales deeply. He soaks himself up and then he smells it again. It smells like fresh berries, blueberries. He pauses and he stops rubbing himself with a berry scented soapy rag, and then he picks up the large bottle of bath gel and he begins to look at it. The boy is shaking his head as he does. Apparently, Emma had given this particular item to him only 2 weeks before she had disappeared. It had been a part of a 4-piece set which she had bought him for his birthday. And Sean had been using it very sparingly, only 2 or 3 times per week, and every time he had used it to shower, the fresh berry smell would remind him of her, and he had often imagined that one day she would come to him, yes, right there in his home, while he showered in his bath. But my friends, she never did. No. A matter of fact, still, she had never even been to his home before. Though he had often invited her, Emma had always said to him that she was not ready to meet his family. Not just yet, but soon, she had told him. Sean puts the bottle back on the glass shelf and he begins to slowly rub his head as the water pours down upon him. But then, between all the pouring of the water, he hears a faint sound. Sean? The young man stops. He listens. He could have sworn he just heard a voice call his name, and it sounded to him like a woman's voice. Oh, Sean, you poor fellow. He turns the shower off because it was soft, and so he needed to get rid of all the distractions. But he is almost certain, though, that it was a woman's voice. The faucet is now turned off, and the water drips, drip, drip from his body as he stands still, listening. But he hears nothing. Yet, the soft voice he had heard through the sound of the running water is now stuck in his head, and he doesn't want to ponder it. He doesn't want to even give it a second thought, for he knows to do so would be crossing the line of what is normal, of what is natural. Because if indeed someone has called his name, then who could it be? For his mother, Carol, she's in the US. She had left 8 years ago. So Sean now tries to settle his nerves, to block his mind from the thought. He forces himself and he shrugs it off. No, he says under his breath. There was nothing, just the smell of the blueberry bringing some way out thoughts to my poor mind. Oh, Sean, poor you. This he says to himself as he begins again to bathe. But then, again, a voice. Sean, my love. And this time he hears a voice again, low but sweet, yes. But it is more than just a whisper this time. Instantly, his heart begins to race. For now, there is no confusing it, no wondering if that was my mother's voice. Oh no, it wasn't his mom. It isn't Carol. For that was the clear, unmistakable voice of Emma Stone. Sean pushes the curtain aside. He grabs the towel, and without drying himself off, he runs from the bath. Dad! He calls out as he runs towards the bathroom door. He quickly opens the door and runs to the balcony. Dad! His father is downstairs having his coffee. As usual, he looks up and his father sees Sean. His son is dripping from water and he's looking terrified. His eyes are open and he looks as if he has seen a ghost. Sean, what's the matter, son? But the housekeeper, Nancy, has just walked in with Mr. Coswell's bowl of fruit and his morning's observer. Your fruits and your paper, sir? Says Nancy. She too looks up at Sean, but the boy's eyes are flooded with fear and anxiety. Dad, I need you right now. And so his father turns to Nancy and just simply tells her to cover it up. And in the same breath, he lifts his voice and continues to speak to his son. I'm coming, sir. Coswell places his coffee down on the marble table and begins to climb the stairs as he keeps his eyes on his anxious son. He looks up into the boy's troubled face as he climbs the last few steps to the top. I'm coming to you, my son, I'm coming. Sean now turns and he heads back into his room. Coswell reaches Sean's room. He enters and he closes the door behind him. His son is standing by the bedroom window. His father quickly glances around the room cautiously. Of course, you can imagine. He is wondering what the hell is happening. But then he walks towards his son. Okay, so what's going on, son? What's happening? Sean's eyes are now glazed as tears well up in his eyes. He stretches his clenched fist towards his father, and his father, in return, stretches his hand to receive from his son whatever it is that he has now concealed in his hand. Sean opens his hand over his father's, and his father feels a small, tough object rest in his palm. Coswell looks down in his hand at what his son has just given to him. It is the gold and diamond ring. Oh yes, the very same one that he had used to propose to Emma some 5 months earlier. His father examines it, and then he looks at his son. A woman's ring? An engagement ring, my son? He asks him very cautiously. He can see that the young man is shaking, and so he decides that he was going to be extra careful. Sean is looking on his father, but he doesn't yet respond. His father decides he'll still prod a bit, but carefully. So, Sean, where did you get this from? Who does this belong to? His son then begins to speak, but slowly. It belongs to a girl I love, Dad. A girl I planned to marry. And of course, surprise, surprise, because Oswald had no idea that Sean was seriously dating anyone, much less to be thinking of marriage. And so you can imagine how shocked his father is. But let's continue. For Sean has never, ever brought a girlfriend home to introduce to his father, and he knows that they have a pretty close relationship, so therefore there should be nothing which Sean would ever think that he needs to hide from him. His father continues slowly. Well, son, this is news indeed. I never knew that you were seriously dating anyone. He pauses briefly because, of course, he's clearly surprised at these developments. He continues. Marriage, you say? Well, this is great news, son. He glances again at the ring in his hand, and then he looks back at his son. So, where's the young lady? And who is my daughter-in-law to be? But Sean glances sideways, outside. Then he looks back at his father. Well, Dad, I guess that right about now, my lady love is at your office. Oh, another curveball for old Father Coswell. At my office? At this hour, Sean? His father says. Coswell's face now clearly shows that he is utterly confused at what his son has said. Now, he still decides to just see if he can get his son to begin to make some sense. But son, it's not even 6:30 in the morning, Sean. Any particular reason why she would be at my office this early, son? And though Coswell hears himself asking these questions, the whole direction it is taking begins to feel weird to him, strange. But his son's troubled face tells him clearly that Sean isn't at all happy with whatever is going on with himself and his bride-to-be. Sean's nervous lips quiver as he responds. Well, Dad, I guess she's at your office at this hour because of the special arrangements which you have made for her. But it's okay, I don't blame you, Dad. I realize you didn't know that she was mine. It just gets sweeter, doesn't it? Sean continues. I know you'd never deliberately do such a cruel thing to me, Dad. Now Coswell is even now more confused than ever, but he realizes that the situation is extremely delicate, and therefore he must continue to tread cautiously. Okay, son, are you saying that somehow I have had some dealings with this woman who happens to be your fiancée? Is that what you think has happened, son? A river of tears is banked up in Sean's eyes as he looks at his father. Yes, Dad, something like that. You had some business dealings with her parents, I guess. But Coswell looks at the ring in his hand again, and then he looks back at his son. Okay, son, here's a little suggestion if you are open to one. Now, why don't we call this woman and have her over for breakfast so we can sort this whole thing out? Because I doubt very much that I have been on a date with the same woman which you have been seeing, but just in case there has been some crossing of our paths, then I'd really love an opportunity to clear the whole thing up, son. Because to buy an engagement ring for a woman, Sean, that's a pretty big deal. So shall we give your dear lady a call then, my son? Sean inhales deeply. He's fighting back. He's holding back the tears now. Well, Dad, it would be a great suggestion if indeed it were possible. But alas, it's not. Because I can't call her. You can't call her. No one can call her, Dad. And I'm sure that you'll see her this morning when you get to your office, Dad. Yes, she'll be there waiting on you. But you won't be able to speak to her though. Not anymore. She won't be able to answer you. Oh my goodness. This is just awful. It pains my heart. Although I know it's just a story. It pains my heart. His father now continues. And why wouldn't she be able to answer me, son? What's the matter with her? Sean slowly shakes his head. Coswell takes a step towards his son and puts his hand on his shoulder. Sean responds, she can't answer you, Dad, because she is dead. My Emma is dead, and she's laying down on a cold metal table in your ward. Emma Stone will not be coming for breakfast. Not today, and not tomorrow. Not ever. Ah, my friends, it is indeed a truly shocking revelation to Sean's father. Yes. Now, words don't immediately come to him. He's not quite sure how to respond to his obviously heartbroken and torn child. And to think that he had called Sean and asked him to attend to the body of his dearly beloved Emma, well, this is just awful. And the fact that he had not known who she was, it really doesn't make Coswell feel any better about what has now happened. Let us close a bit. But now the whole truth. Emma Stone is dead. Yes. And Sean, his son, his only child, is a wreck. His poor heart is broken. And to compound matters, Sean doesn't even know what had happened. What had happened to his beloved Emma? Why had she run away? He thinks to himself. What dark secrets she had kept hidden in her heart from me. This is what the boy now asked himself. For Sean had been certain that Emma had loved him. Yes, of this one thing he was absolutely certain. But it was her secret. Some apparently ugly hidden thing had torn her away from him, from Sean. And beyond that, it was that very same dark thing which had caused her to have held back, to have not shared herself with him. This has caused her now, he believes, to be at his father's morgue as a lifeless corpse. Ah, my friends, I hope you have been as intrigued with this story as I have. Yes, this is just part one, the first several chapters. But join me again, though, as we read a little bit more about this story and about Sean and what it is that he will probably do from here on to try and figure out what has happened to his beloved Emma. So, join me, your storyteller, for the next reading of this supernatural thriller, Loved by the Undead. I am your storyteller. See you next time.